Welcome to my new Japanese for Advanced Beginners series. This is a continuation of my Japanese for Beginners series. Check the links in the description below. If you're more beginner level, you might want to start there. This corresponds with Genki Volume 2 textbook, but you don't need it to follow along. Anyway, what better way to kick off this brand new series than by doing some difficult verb conjugations? Yep. To understand how to conjugate the verbs into their potential form for this lesson, you're going to have to remember what verbs, do verbs, and irregular verbs are. So if you're a little rusty on that concept, you might also want to check my video that I did a while ago on that. But for the more adventuresome and foolhardy, let's continue. So what is the potential form of a verb? It basically is your ability to do something, which means you can do a verb. So it's the difference between I eat a sandwich versus I can eat a sandwich. Or I go to the movies versus I can go to the movies. So in English, if you want to say that you can do a verb, all you have to do is add the word can before the verb and it becomes the potential version of the verb. But in Japanese, as is usually the case, the way you make that conjugation happen is at the end of the verb. You do stuff to the end of the verb. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's a difference between do verbs, verbs, and irregular verbs when conjugating them into their potential form. So this term came up a lot in the last set of lessons, dictionary form of a verb. That's basically the unadorned version of the verb, but not in its masu form. So it'll end in a ru, or a u, or a tsu, or a gu, or a mu. It'll end in like some consonant followed by u, or just plain u by itself. So you always want to start with the dictionary form of a verb before you convert it to the potential form. So the formula for converting ru verbs to their potential form is you change the ru part of the verb to rareru. Rareru. It's like a tongue twister. So the best way to show this is with some examples. So next to my face, there is a nice little chart. We have miru, which is the verb to see. And if you change it to can see or has the ability to see, is able to see, mirareru. So I just dropped the ru and I replaced it with rareru. Taberu, to eat, becomes taberareru. Deru, which means like to escape or to go out or to exit, becomes derareru. So not it escapes, it leaves, but it has the ability to escape or leave. Kangaeru, to think. Kangaerareru means has the ability to think. Neru, to go to bed or to sleep, becomes nerareru. So now on to irregular verbs, and as one would expect with irregular verbs, the rule for changing it to its potential form is inconsistent, because that's what irregular verbs like to do. They like to be rebels. So kuru and suru basically are our irregular verbs. Kuru is korareru, which makes lots of sense. Remember when it's in the nai form, the negative form, kuru becomes konai. So it's at least similar to the weird metamorphosis that happens to it from kuru to konai, kuru to korareru. And now that brings us to suru, the other irregular verb. So you might be thinking to yourself, oh, you drop the ru and you change it to rareru, so it'll be like surareru. Or maybe you change it to shimasu and then drop the masu and change it to rareru, shirareru. It's like, that's a different verb. But no, you don't do either of those things. There's actually a verb that already exists, which means to have the ability to do, can do, and that is dekiru. So basically, the can do version, the potential verb version of suru is just dekiru, the verb dekiru. And then note here for all you pedantic folks, dekiru is a ru verb, so one might think you could go dekirareru, but that means like I can do, which is like not the can, it's gibberish. So dekiru just means I can do it. Okay, so now on to u verbs. The rule of changing an u verb to its potential form of the verb is you basically just drop the u part of it. So it's actually easier demonstrated in romaji rather than hiragana. So you drop the letter u, that u part of the u. Like if it's gu, you drop the u part of the g and you're left with just g. And then you replace it with eru. So for an example of a verb that ends in gu, oyogu, that means to swim. So you drop the u part of the gu and you add eru. So oyogu, oyogeru, oyogeru. Another way to think about this, if that trips you up a little bit, if you don't want to think of it in Romaji terms, is you just think of the hiragana chart, a, I, u, e, o, kaki, ku, ke, ko, ga, gi, gu, ge, go. You basically just change it to the e version of itself. So oyogeru is the can swim, has the ability to swim version of oyogu. Here are some more examples. Iku, to go, becomes ikeru, can go. Matsu, to wait, becomes materu, I can wait. Motsu, to hold something. Moteru means like I have the ability to hold something. I mean, it's useful to say that if like someone like has this like 40-pound keg of beer. I don't know how much beers weigh. Moteru, like, can you hold this? Like, yeah, moteru, like, yeah, I can. Not to be confused with, a side note, not to be confused with the slang word moteru with like katakana, which means like to be popular with people sexually or just in general. No, this is the potential version of motsu, to hold something, moteru. Yomu, to read, becomes yomeru, I can read or have the ability to read. Korosu, to kill, becomes koroseru, I have the ability to kill, I can kill. Hanasu, to talk or to speak, becomes hanaseru, to be able to talk or speak. And asobu, to play, becomes asoberu. I have the ability to play, I can play, I am able to play. So now the tricky part of u verbs, the ones that end in ru but aren't technically ru verbs. So same conjugation rules here, all right? You would not conjugate u verbs that end in hiragana ru the same way that you conjugate ru verbs that end in hiragana ru. If all of this is like whoosh, go back to that video on u verbs and ru verbs and it'll be a little clearer. So anyway, here are some u verbs masquerading as ru verbs. They're not really ru verbs, they are u verbs. Odoru, to dance, becomes odoreru, can dance. Toru, to take, becomes toreru, to be able to take, can take. Kaeru, to return or to go home, becomes kaereru. So not kaerareru, but kaereru, to have the ability to go home. The other tricky thing about u verbs are the ones that end in just hiragana u. There's no like consonant left over after you remove that u sound. So you basically think of that hiragana chart, a, I, u, e, o. So you change the u to e and add ru. So kau, to buy, becomes kaeru, to be able to buy. Note that this sounds mysteriously similar to kaeru, the verb which means to return or to go home. This is why kanji is your best friend. This, among many other reasons, is why kanji is your best friend. But yeah, note, I've got next to my face kaeru, to return home, and the other one, kaeru, to have the ability to buy something. So kanji matter. Warau, to smile or to laugh, waraeru, to have the ability to smile or laugh, and then utau, to sing, utaeru, to be able to sing. So now that we have all these potential verbs, there are further conjugations that you can do with them. Basically, when you change a verb into its potential form, doesn't matter if it's an u verb, do verb, or irregular verb when you start. Once you convert it into its potential form, it ends in ru, and it is now a ru verb, and therefore is conjugated as a ru verb. So that means if you want to change the can-do version of any of these verbs into their past tense, into their negative tense, or into their past negative tense, you can do that. Just pretend that they're all ru verbs and proceed accordingly. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. People who are receiving my study guides are getting expanded versions of these charts, by the way. I'm just going to zip through them. Kuru, to come. Korareru means can come. Korareta means I had the ability to come. Korosu, to kill. Koroseru, have the ability to kill. And then koroseta, I had the ability to kill or I was able to kill. Odoru, dance. Odoreru, have the ability to dance. And odoreta, had the ability to dance, was able to dance. And then we've got kau, to buy. Kaeru, have the ability to buy. And kaeta, had, was able to buy. And then same rules for if you want to change these potential verbs into the te form. They're ru verbs. So the basic rule is you drop the ru, change it to te. And a quick reminder, te forms of verbs are great for connecting parts of sentences together, for doing like a commanding form of a verb, and many other things. There's so many other permutations that you can then springboard off of with the te forms of verbs. So basically, same verbs, kuru, to come, korareru, to have the ability to come, korarete, have the ability to come, and something else. Odoru, to dance. Odoreru, to have the ability to dance. Odorete, have the ability to dance, and other things are going to happen in this sentence. And as you may be able to guess, you can also convert all of these potential verbs into the negative. And it's the same rule as with any do verb. You drop the do and replace it with nai or nai des, depending on how polite you want to be. And yeah, you can also replace the do with masen. Here's a useful one. Iku, to go. Ikeru, I can go. Ikenai, I can't go. So, party ni ikenai, I can't go to the party. It's actually quite useful because no one can go to parties right now. Yomu, to read. Yomeru means I can read. Yomenai, I can't read. So that's another useful expression if a lot of these kanji are going over your head. Incidentally, that's why I've got romaji on the screen. Utau, to sing. Utaeru, I can sing. Utaenai, I cannot sing. And then the last conjugation I'm going to explain in this video, but as you can guess, any other video I did in the past series that talked about verb conjugations, it applies to these potential verbs. But this is one of the more common conjugations. So if you want to do the past negative tense, same rules with any do verb, you drop the do and change it to nakatta, or nakatta desu, or masen deshita. Taberu, to eat. Taberareru, to be able to eat. Taberarenai, can't eat. Taberarenakatta, was not able to eat. As you can see, like, these verbs get super long once you keep adding all these, like, layers to the verb. In English, you add all that stuff before the verb. In Japanese, it comes at the end of the verb. Suru, remember that verb, to do. Dekiru becomes the can-do version. Dekinai means can't do, and dekinakatta, wasn't able to do. Hanasu, to talk. Hanaseru, be able to talk. Hanasenai, can't talk. And hanasenakatta, was not able to talk, couldn't talk. So, how do you actually use these potential forms of verbs in sentences? It's actually the same rules, generally speaking, as all the other sentence structures we've been learning so far. There's just one little difference. You know how we have the sentence structure object, particle wo, and then verb to say that the verb is done to the object? With the potential verbs, you can actually use particle wo or particle ga. There are like slight subtle differences to that, and don't worry about it for now. Just know that it is something that you can do. Can do, haha. So just to give you a couple examples, a니메を見る, watch anime. Anime is our object, miru is our verb. We are doing this verb of miru, seeing, watching, to the anime. We're watching anime. アニメを見る. アニメを見られる has the ability to see anime, watch anime. Or you can also say アニメが見られる has the ability to watch anime. 漫画を読む read manga. 漫画を読める to have the ability to read manga. 漫画が読める has the ability to read manga. It's the same thing pretty much. So you can generally exchange wo and ga, and kind of as you go and as you learn Japanese more, you'll kind of get a feel for which one feels better in which scenario. But there's one verb where it's always ga, and that's dekiru. So like the sentence 仕事をする to do work. You would not say 仕事をできる, you'd say 仕事ができる. Have the ability to do work, can work. Also note that dekiru is extremely useful, and you can add it to all kinds of activity nouns to say that someone is good at something. Like it's technically literally that person can do something, but it's actually more like is good at that thing. So some examples, テニスができる can do tennis or is good at tennis. 日本語ができる you're going to hear this a lot if you go to Japan. 日本語できるんだ like, oh wow, she can actually speak Japanese. Whoa. So can speak Japanese, can do Japanese, is good at Japanese. 勉強ができる see, literally that means can do studying, but it means like is a good study. And then here's some more like drawn out sentences that I got from typing potential forms of verbs into Japanese Google. So these are actual things that Japanese people have typed on the internet. 英語を話せる人はいますか? So this is an extremely useful sentence if you're going to go to Japan. Is there anybody here who could speak English? 人はいますか is like, is there anybody here? Is there a person here? 英語を話せる人. 英語を話せる can speak English. 英語を話せる人 a person who can speak English. Is there a person who can speak English here? Here's a cool one. This is from a song. 会いたいな会えないな切ないなこの気持ち. I hope I don't get demonetized for that. It's from Catch You Catch Me, from Cardcaptor Sakura. And also this 会いたい and 会えない, it's so cliche. It's in so many song lyrics, so it's kind of cool to learn it. So 会いたい, you might remember from Thai lesson I almost said last semester, last series. Verbs with Thai at the end means like you want to do the verb. So 会いたい, I want to see you. I.e., I miss you. 会えない, I cannot see you. So I want to see you, but I cannot see you. And then na at the end is like, oh, gee whiz, oh man, I want to see you, but I can't see you. 切ない means, oh, it hurts. Oh, touch my microphone while I say that. Oh, it hurts. It's so painful. この気持ち, this feeling of mine in my heart. So it's like, oh, it's so painful. Woe is me. I want to see you, but I can't. I know it's going to come in super handy in your personal life. 昼ごはんが食べられなかった. This is a very sad sentence, actually. This sentence might make me sadder than the last one. So 昼ごはん is lunch. Ga, again, it could be ga or o in this case. 食べられなかった. So this is one of those like we're adding layers to this verb 食べる. So 食べられない can't eat. 食べられなかった couldn't eat, wasn't able to eat. So I wasn't able to eat lunch, and that's very sad. 申し訳ないんですが、結婚式に行けません. So this is something I had to tell people in English a couple times last year. We're probably going to have to tell more people this pretty soon. Okay, so 申し訳ないですが is a very polite way of saying I'm very sorry to tell you this. I regret to inform you. 結婚式 is wedding ceremony. に行けません. So I cannot attend your wedding. That's a really happy note to end this on. So if you have been following part 1 of this series, this is usually the part where I would do a review and I would say the model sentences that I went over in this video, and then I'd leave space and you could practice them and whatnot. But confession, I'm not a native Japanese speaker. I don't know if you didn't know this, but basically by this level, any speaking or listening that you're getting should not really come from people like me. It should come from native Japanese speakers. My intention for these videos is more to explain grammar concepts to people in a way that is accessible to people that aren't necessarily knee-deep in linguistic theory, or people who don't really resonate as well with learning through textbooks and they need more fun examples to figure things out. So if you want more listening experience from native Japanese speakers, on that note, what I am going to do at the end of these videos is promote other channels and other resources that teach Japanese, especially channels and other resources that have a different approach from mine. And this week, I'm excited to introduce Mochi Japa, a new Japanese language channel that is taught by a VTuber. Mochina Sensei is a native Japanese speaker, teacher, and voice actor who teaches in a very fun and very moe way, and the videos are conducted mostly in slow, easy to understand Japanese, so it's a good resource for intermediate level learners, which you all are, and you should definitely check them out. So thank you for joining me for the first lesson in what will be a 40+ episode series. Thank you to all of my patrons for making this series possible. If you want to become a patron and get more perks out of this, check out the notes in the video description, and I'll see you next time for particle shi. 頑張ってね!